we watched Three Idiots from 2009. It was a movie by the same director as the last Bollywood Virgins movie we watched. And I don't know. You actually are a Bollywood virgin, or you had your Bollywood virginity taken, I believe.
I really wish I didn't. I feel like that was 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
Wow.
No, it wasn't that bad. It was just, I feel like I have to sign up to watch a musical, and I was just like, why are they singing in the bathroom? Like, especially the first song that started, I was just like, oh, they really went into this. And even some of the sound effects, like they blow up throughout the movie, like the guy screaming, like it has an echo. And I'm just like, all of the effects are so over the top. And also the fact that this movie takes course over 10 years. 10 years. They're in school for 5 or 4, and then another 5 years goes by, and I'm just like, I had to take a break. This movie is 3 hours long. About an hour and a half in, I was just like, oh God. Like, I just pressed pause. I walked away. I like lived my life for an hour, and I came back and I finished the movie. I was just like,
it can be a lot if you're not prepared for it. And I certainly wasn't. The first time we watched one of these, we did a comparison between E.T. and the Bollywood remake of it. And
it's called Koi Musical too?
Which actually, there was a cool fun fact. There was somebody who commented on the video later and mentioned that E.T. is sort of based on a book from a long time ago. And then like Koi Milgya, and the book was written by an Indian author apparently. And then Koi Milgya is sort of like, I don't know if Koi Milgya went off more of the book or off the
honestly
movie,
like to call it, to even call it a remake isn't even fair, because it starts out kind of similar, but it goes on. And that's another thing that happened with Three Idiots. It's like, oh man, like I would have been fine if this ended an hour ago, because now we're delivering a baby, and we're like, I
thought that was a nice third act.
While they're delivering the baby.
I think I just don't like this director, personally.
Really?
Even the acting, like we kind of discussed how acting in America, number one, is the like what sort of shapes the world, but Bollywood has really blown up in the last, I would say, like 20 years, even the last 10 years. And the acting is so different. Like I felt like I was watching a soap opera the whole time. Like it is, the acting is so over the top, the sound effects, the music, the audio, everything is just so up here the whole time. I'm just like,
what I've said about that in the past is that the action is actually clearer in these movies. And so let me tell you what I mean. It's that I for instance, I just can't watch a movie with subtitles. So I turn them off most of the time. For this one, I actually had to turn them on because it wasn't quite as clear.
How do you understand?
But what I was going to say is, in these other ones, I just sort of tuned out and I watched what was going on there, and I tuned into the action and the expression. I was like, oh, I understand what's happening, because it's so clear and the verbiage isn't so specific that you lose track of the plot. You can see the relationships, and I think that's one of the things I don't like about this director is I have to be watching the subtitles. And on top of that, this was basically the same plot as Munabai.
It is. I noticed that this time more than I watched it before.
He goes to a school.
It's structurally very similar.
So similar. And the other thing, it was like, as much as I appreciate the effort in all Bollywood movies, it seems, to put out positive role models and, encourage people to be the best people they can be, which is not something that we always get over here.
Yeah.
That's kind of a nice deviation from American cinema. But I found this movie and Munabai so what's the word? Ham-fisted in its commentary. I just like to have some subtlety,
that's a big difference in terms of, like, I think, well, Rajkumar Hirani, the director, he is like he's considered the auteur major of Bollywood. Like, he is the guy who is like, I don't know if we want to say the Christopher Nolan of Bollywood, because I don't think
I wouldn't call him that at all.
they're not. He's more who's the guy who made Silver Linings Playbook? I'm forgetting his name.
I remember the movie. I don't remember the director.
Didn't he direct Amsterdam this year that completely flopped?
Did it flop? That was a good movie.
Oh yeah, it dropped so hard. It's coming to Hulu, I think, soon.
Shame. It's a good movie.
No,
I don't
but
know,
still,
there's some stuff that goes to Hulu that I'm like, why did this get canceled?
David O.
Like,
Russell.
I love this.
Yeah.
David O. Russell. Yeah.
I think both Munna Bhai and, like you said, the structure is very similar. So Three Idiots and Munna Bhai follow a very similar story structure in that. And not maybe the story structure, because I don't think like Munna Bhai completely takes place in like a chronologically like order. Like it's not where this movie kind of jumps around between two different parts of the same timeline. So you're getting like these long sequences which are essentially in flashback, and then you see what's happening in the here and now. The thing about this director is he's sort of he and more so than most of the mainstream Bollywood directors, he has like a very specific message or some kind of like thing that like or some kind of moral lesson or something that he's trying to get across. That the movie like
it wasn't subtle at all.
Yeah,
it's not subtle.
It reminds me of like a Goldilocks story.
Yeah,
blown up for Bollywood. Like it just reminds me of the kid stories we were told. Like the whole storyline just seems like a story you tell to a little kid to try to get them to act better.
I think so. A lot of the differences there is the audience it's designed for. Like this, I think Rajkumar Hirani's movies are designed more for an Indian audience than a lot of other mainstream Bollywood movies. And in that way, they connect really, really well, which is why he's such an admired director. Like this movie came out in 2009, the same year as Avatar came out. And I know like it made nowhere near as much as maybe anything in the top 10 in the box office that year, worldwide. But in terms of like the levels of success it had in Bollywood, like how big of a movie Avatar was for Hollywood and cinema as a whole, this movie was that big and breaking that many levels of records for Bollywood at that year.
Wow.
And won awards and everything. Now the over-the-top acting and everything and the musical numbers, that's part and parcel with every Bollywood movie. So like as your first Bollywood experience, I can totally understand it's very different.
I just think the style of acting really gets me. Like I'm not one of those people that enjoys watching soap operas. I think those people in America would love Bollywood. Like I think you would love American soap operas by the way you're talking about it, Daniel.
Oh, you haven't seen Indian soap operas. Indian soap operas go like
actually
way
I
harder
have
than American soap
because
operas.
When I was in India, that's all they watch. They keep the TV on all day long and they just watch it all day long. But I think that also speaks to sort of like the culture too, right? Like the stories are all sort of uplifting stories, all sort of just like over the top, but still very like cutesy. The musicals are supposed to like make you feel happier. And I think that says a lot about the society still in India. Like it's still trying to find what America has found as far as stability and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that influences popular culture in a big way.
I don't know if I would call it stability though. I think the argument is more so just culturally, like what the Indian identity and how they identify with values, like how
it's very optimistic overall,
and that's something that is across the board in Bollywood movies. It feels like
it's very optimistic.
I would even say, like, and I've said it before, like it's like taking a trip back to the 90s on another planet for me, and I have to tune into it really, but like there's optimism, there's these family values. There's bright colors and even the way the music is sung and produced, it's like it's all for that sort of Spielberg-esque feel-good 90s movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the cynicism of American culture, and it still has respect for old ways of life, but embracing new technology and new philosophies.
I mean, even to the point, like one thing in this movie that you guys will probably not pay like any mind to at all, the kiss scene at the end, like back when this movie came out, like on screen like kissing was something that was still semi taboo in mainstream Bollywood, and it was like just starting to become normalized. And so that's something which I still remember to this day, back when like the movie initially came out. I'm like, oh, okay, because that's not something that you were used to seeing. Like and I mean, this is 2009. I mean, this at this point is ancient history. Like things have changed, but like to kind of, again, an example of how different the cultural and audience expectations were
And
and
that's
are.
what I've come to appreciate about these, because before this year I had never seen a Bollywood movie. Now that I know what I'm in for, it's like it is a nice escape from the cynicism of American media. But
And that's
to be
kind of what
completely
I
honest, I
wanted to
didn't
say.
love this one.
Yeah, earlier, I think if I would have watched the menu and then watched this, the contrast between the two would have been so much better. And I would have been like, okay, I can handle the stupidity of this movie. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But even a lot of the humor was lost on me because it's so like stupid slapstick humor that you're just like.
So, but what about the story itself? Because I feel like the big, like, and this is, okay, by the way, here's one thing about this director, Rajkumar Hirani, and his movies. I think these are movies that you will, on first watch, mostly walk away, especially if you haven't watched Bollywood movies before, you'll walk away with like, okay, they were going for humor, it was over the top, it was a little bit melodramatic at times, and there was, there's music and dancing and all that stuff. Yes. But I think when you look at like the writing of the movie in terms of the message and the stories trying to tell, which will come through much more on second and third watch of these movies, I think this movie, I think the big thing
that was focusing on, your second and third watch.
Well, like you were
whether you decide to do it or not,
on this one.
but
sorry, guys.
The idea, like this movie was all about talking about, and again, this was they pointed out at the one point in the movie where one of the characters says, I think Amir Khan's main character, I forget his name, Rancho, like, is the name of the character. Yeah. He goes like, the number one like cause of death in India is suicide, and next to that is like, homicides or stuff like that. So there's clearly something wrong. And then the big part of this movie that may be lost on somebody who wasn't familiar or isn't familiar with how the Indian society, like, and not just Indian society, but like South Asia as a whole, whether it's India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, like that part of the world, is when you're growing up, the whole idea of you the moment you're born, your parents expect you, like, if you become a doctor, engineer, a lawyer, or like if you do want to do anything else, it's considered like less of a thing to aim in life for. Whereas this movie and the pressure to which kids are put under, and how it leads them to like literally, and then this movie, it may seem over the top, but it's a very real problem of like kids committing suicide because they can't.
That's not the issue that I. That's not the issue that I had with it. I didn't. I actually found that to be, that was shocking to see in a Bollywood movie. It's like, yeah, there's some reality to this, and I'm not unfamiliar with the idea that the untraditional ideas and untraditional vocations are looked down upon in not just sub-Asian cultures, but all around the world. Even in America, when your son comes to you and is like, hey, I want to be an actor, they go like, good luck, don't ask me for money. But it's like, I found that the way that they express the ideas, it could have been subtler. I thought the professor in this particular movie, he was a clown.
And
he was definitely like, well,
does he actually have such a severe lisp in real life?
That was definitely put on.
Yeah,
he was in Munna Bhai, the same actor. And I've seen him in other movies now. That's just like,
I mean, I was watching it and I was just thinking, like, this guy, I'm supposed to believe that there's death at his feet. He was a clown. He was an absolute clown of a person. And that made it difficult to take the stakes of a lot of this seriously, because at some points it feels like it's really heavy. It's really serious. People are killing themselves for greatness. And yet he's just kind of this goofball professor who's got a stick up his butt. Like, I'm not there. I guess the framing of the situation didn't do anything for me.
Also, the vastness of it too. Like, it should have been at least 2 separate movies and focused more on the points. All of that they tried to get through, I was just like, what?
This is common.
This is 9 years. I'm like, what?
Well, so I'll say this about Bollywood movies as a whole, and I think, Andrew, you were probably hinting at there too for a sec there. The idea, so when I grew up on Bollywood movies, like, I basically, even to this day, I think I probably as a whole seen more Bollywood movies than Hollywood movies. I've seen a lot of Hollywood movies. I've seen even more Bollywood movies. But there's a thing in Hollywood and in film in general where movies have genres, and some movies, meld genres and kind of blend things together. The thing about Bollywood that I had never quite thought of that way was the idea that no Bollywood movie quite lives in one or two or three genres. Like when we say a Bollywood movie is like a full meal and it's an experience, is because one moment you might be watching something that's a full-blown comedy, and then the next moment a guy jumps out a window and like almost kills himself, and now all of a sudden, a whole different movie, and then there's an action sequence happening, and then there's a song, and it could be a sad song, a happy song. You get a little bit of everything. And so when you talk about like 4-quadrant movies in the US, 4-quadrant movies in Hollywood mean something completely different than in Bollywood. Because in Bollywood, every movie, well, there are movies that do, nowadays there's more variety, but like back in 2009 and that era, like these mainstream Bollywood movies were, when you say 4-quadrant, they're giving you a little bit of everything. And you just kind of go with it because people are used to that. But if you're not used to it, it comes across as very much unfocused and going in every which direction. And I will say
the American attention span, these are too much. And again, you could condense this movie, like you said, into 2 separate parts. There's a lot at the end that just subplots that don't need to be in this, they don't make any extra points. They just sort of pad out the movie. Amir Khan, that was Rancho.
Yep, Amir Khan. That's the one on the right. He's on the right.
So he Angelina, you weren't here for this, but they recently did a Bollywood remake of Forrest Gump, and he starred in it. Like almost a shot-for-shot remake in a lot of respects.
That's like one of my mother's favorite movies. So
it's a lot of people's favorites. Actually, I enjoyed the remake.
It was good.
You know what? Yeah. I also hate Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump, but that's beside the point. I love that face. We're gonna use that. So
I'll get used to it. No, this is a thing. Yeah. Yes.
But in that movie, and I think in posters for other movies, does he have green eyes now, or does he like wear contacts? Because I was like, wait, that's not the same guy. What's the deal there?
I don't know. I've never noticed. I thought he had brown eyes for all I knew.
He definitely has like hazel eyes, but also that was kind of one of my things too, is like, and this has been a typical, I took like a 5-week backpacking trip in Southeast Asia, and my best friend's girlfriend is Indian. And so we got like the full immersive sort of experience. Like we went to Mumbai, we went to Calcutta, and it was just overall incredible. But then you start speaking to some of the societal issues, and I experienced this in Vietnam too. Everybody in this movie is like super white, like super, and that's kind of, to me, like doesn't represent the majority of Indian culture. Like there's only one guy in there that like looks sort of like typically representative of what the majority of India looks like. And so I remember being in India and sort of like, it was so like highly it was weird because people were like following me, taking my photo because I'm white, and like they kind of try to push that into the movies, and that kind of makes me sad too. Like
again, that has gone better. It's different. Here's the thing, like there's Bollywood is only one of like half a dozen different film industries in India. You have Bollywood, you have Tollywood, you have Collywood, so basically they're all different languages. Bollywood is like the most well-known is the Hindi movie industry. It's based in Bombay. That's where the word Bollywood comes from, because they were like Hollywood except Bombay, Bollywood. Even though Bombay is now, because post British occupation, it's now known as Mumbai. So it's different. But that's where the term comes from. And so Indian, like, Hindi cinema, like the actor in the middle here, he's known more in the South Asian movies. Like when I say South Asian, I mean South Indian movies. Yeah. So he's been in Tamil films and those. Like for example, what was the name that came out earlier? RRR. I think that was a big. I think it was a Tamil movie, but it was not a Bollywood movie. But they do dubs. And nowadays the culture has. So back then, this is 2009. A lot of Bollywood movies focused on mainly that region, like the New Delhi, Mumbai, that region, or like Goa maybe. But now the diversity of actors, and not only just the diversity of the cast and the kind of stories they tell has gone better since then, but also like they now every movie is dubbed in like the 4 or 5 main languages. So depending on what part of India you go to, the same movie
You
might be
get
playing,
your
but you
own,
might be
yeah.
watching it in the language that is the language, of that region. So it's definitely gotten better. I mean, yes, this movie, this is as mainstream as Bollywood gets, at least,
Yeah.
for 2009. But they've gotten better with that. Like, for example, this last sequence, you could tell somebody like, the guys who made this movie, they're like, oh my God, we can color grade, like we can do highly selective, and they just went crazy with the color of the water and the sky.
Yeah.
You could tell, like the rest of that, like, yeah, I'm sure it looks beautiful in real life, but they color graded the heck out of it. So they've gotten better with like exercising some restraint. But I do like the joy of like this movie and Mona Bhai MBBS for me. Like I walk away from it and I'm like, you know what? I feel better about being alive. Like, cause I enjoy, so that's my personal take on these films. But
in a lot of them, that
like
you do get that wholesome appreciation
because
for life.
it's so optimistic. Like
Yeah.
it has such a. That's kind of what I was trying to say. It's like a basis of like it almost sounds like a kid's fairy tale.
Oh, and I'm not attacking you.
Trying
Like
to impart like moral value.
It's totally like there's so many different viewpoints.
Yeah, better than I did walking away from the menu. That made me confused and tired.
Well, I felt.
Let me ask you one question. You watched the menu before this?
Of course you did.
By the way, the director of the movie, Rajkumar Hirani, he's the one in the white shirt there. So that's him.
The
just
white
for
shirt?
content. That's the director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Rajkumar Hirani. He's very well known. Right now he's working on a movie with Shah Rukh Khan, who Andrew, you remember what movie did we watch? It's Kal Ho Na Ho, right?
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan's like the most well-known Bollywood actor of all time, like the most successful. He's like if you combine George Clooney, Brad
Daniel,
Pitt,
where did you grow up?
and everybody. I was born in Pakistan. I lived there till I was 9. Then I moved to the UK for 3 years, and I've been here since 2007 in the US. So I've been all over. But yeah, I just wanted to ask a very quick question because last night I watched Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and then I took a bit of a break and then I watched 3 Idiots. But Angelina, you watched The Menu and then you watched 3 Idiots. Did it at all feel
so I
like
watched
a palate
3
cleanser?
Idiots and then I watched The Menu.
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, did it feel like a palate
The
cleanser?
Menu.
Yeah.
I think I would have felt better about both of those movies in the takeaway if I would have watched them opposite. I watched 3 Idiots and I was just like, what the fuck? And then I went and saw The Menu and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, 2 different kinds of like WTFs, but definitely same sort of takeaway of like, what did I just watch? Like, what just happened? I don't know. I'm definitely one of those like, I love classic films. I grew up watching black and white movies with my grandmother. I've been acting since I was young. Like I have taken all different kinds of acting classes. I've never been into soap operas. And so the Bollywood movies, I feel like are going to just be into a little bit of like a miss for me. We'll keep trying them out. For your sake,
they're not
Daniel.
all like
it
that.
Sounds like
they're
you
not
love
all
them.
And I'll make sure to pick a few out that are like a little different. I did want to actually, but as we finish this up, I had a question. So in the past, we've done like these comparisons, like like we did E.T. Koi Mil Gaya. And there is so I'm gonna just throw a couple ideas at you guys, and you tell me if you're at all interested in one or the other or none at all. There's 2 sets of movies that I think we could compare. And in one case, it's Hitch, with Will Smith and Kevin James and I forget who is it? Eva Mendes is in there.
Yeah.
And then there's the Bollywood remake. Don't make me watch
Hitch.
And then there's the Bollywood remake called Partner.
Happiness. What is wrong with you?
No, I don't. I enjoy some of these Bollywood movies.
Would you be interested in doing like the Bollywood version of Hitch, which is Partner, and then the Hitch, which by the way, those 2 movies came out 2 years apart.
Am I allowed to rip on the Bollywood movie? Is that going to hurt your heart too much? Because like, if you make me watch Will Smith in Hitch, and then you make me watch the Bollywood version of it, I will probably rip on the Bollywood like hardcore.
That's totally fine. Like, I'll be honest, when we last did this, we did Night and Day, which is a Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz movie. And then we did Bang Bang, which has Hrithik Roshan and Katrina Kaif in it, who are like, for Bollywood, like those 2 are like 2 of the biggest stars in Bollywood. And obviously Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz at the time, huge. Tom Cruise still is. And then surprisingly, it was like weird because one of the things I want to bring up is when we were doing those comparisons, it was really we like compared notes after, and we were like, it really makes a difference which movie you watch first, because it kind of primes you for like what you're gonna see, especially if you haven't seen like say the Hollywood version of it or the Bollywood version of it, and you're watching both for the first time. Then it really.
I think I'll probably always watch the Bollywood ones first. Now that I know. Because there's something about that almost needs like a realist palate cleanse, but also I think, I don't know. It might make me, after a sad movie, I might reverse it. Like I would have watched The Menu and then this, but like I might watch the Bollywood and then Hitch.
I would have watched The Menu first.
What's the other option?
Okay, the other one is and in this case, the two movies are based off of books. So they're not remakes of each other. In fact, the Bollywood movie came out first. The Hollywood movie came out a couple of years later. So the Bollywood movie is, it's called Maine Pyar Kyun Kiya, which is basically Why Did I Fall in Love? That's what it translates to. And the Hollywood equivalent of it, which again, the Hollywood movie came out later, based on a book, was Just Go With It, which I actually just watched like this past week.
Is that Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston and Brooklyn Decker. Is that her name?
You know what? Just because the last couple of Bollywood movies have struck me as Adam Sandler movies, I actually think that would be a good comparison to do.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and both of them came out like a few years apart. I think like 08 and 011 or like 2011, something like that. That's
Munabai literally felt like Billy Madison to me, so it would be interesting to see how those compare.
I also would like to see like something the Bollywood came out first, because there have been a lot of movies that I have heard have been based off of Bollywood movies, but then have really just been like curated for more American culture. So that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, as they say in the movie, all is well. Like not all is well, as all is well. That's
that part I was just like, for reals, that's how you save the baby.
Well, like they point out like it's an accent. It's a thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back next.
Oh, nothing. I was just like, and moving on.
And moving on. Here we go with that moving on part. Follow us, be our friend on all the stuff. We're on all the social media. If you've heard of the social media, we're probably on it. So find us, like us, subscribe, do the whole thing. We'll keep making content for you to enjoy.